So today we're going to be working on a drawing using Copic markers of a harbourside scene based in Dorset. So the materials today I'm using is some Bristol board, and what I've done is, because I'm going to be using a lot of markers, I've taped it down with framing tape, and that should keep the image nice and secure, so even as the paper gets wet it should stay in position and not buckle too much. So the Copics that I'm going to be using, I haven't quite decided yet which ones we're going for. So as you can originally see, I've put down my initial sketch, and this is a rough guide. There's very little detail in the sketch because I'm going to fill it out with the markers. So the image that I'm using is one that I've actually taken myself, and it's this photo. So this was at 7 o'clock in the morning when I was walking into work, and I've also got a reference on screen as well. So as you can see, one of the key elements is that even though there's boats, there's reflections of boats, and you've also got the reflections of the sky against the water. Now I did this piece originally a couple of years ago as part of my coursework for a degree, and it came out really nicely. People actually wanted the image, but it was coursework, so couldn't do that. Right, so types of marker I'm going to be using is the Sketch Copic and the Chow Copic, and also I've got one wide marker. These are brilliant for covering large areas, and today that's probably going to be invested. The most important pen today that I'm going to be using, which I actually wish at times I had as a wide marker, is the Zero pen, or the blender. And if you get one of these, definitely invest in the refills. It's absolutely brilliant. And not only does it bleach out the colour, but it gives the saturation that you need to do your blending. So it's quite an important pen if you want certain types of textures and smooth blends. Now, when I did my original drawing, I actually did it on, gosh, it was smaller than A6, so I mean kind of weeny. So in this case it's much bigger image, a lot more to colour in and a lot more to work out. So I'm going to start by doing the top part of the sky. I'm doing this with the wide marker because in all honesty it's the easiest marker. Now, good thing about Copics, the colour on the lid is what you're getting on the barrel, even though the barrel itself can look a little bit different. Let's just quickly put a bit of that down. Well, how about that? Mine's actually dried. Okay, we won't be using the wide marker. Sorry, I have to laugh because I didn't actually expect that. I've only had that one a couple of years. There may be B32. No, I don't have a refill. Right, so I won't be using a wide marker. It can only happen on TV. Right, but what did I say? B32, didn't I? Luckily, here's a small version of it. If you do go for the wide, it doesn't hurt to have them in either the sketch or the chow at the same time. But apparently it comes in very handy. So I'm going to be colour matching by eye, and that's why I love the Copics, because you can do that. With the Spectrum Noir pens, it's not possible to colour match by lid because of the inks are different. It's actually very grainy. Need to clean. Might need a new nib on that one as well. So I'm going to start off with the normal rule of light colours and then darkening them up. So the B32 is going to be my base layer, and I'm going to be using my smaller chisel. Now the framing tape is in a little bit. It's not going to completely frame off a border like you would if you were doing watercolours, because there's bleed to pens. I'm not quite so worried if this bit there's texture. So just putting down a base colour. And if I'm absolutely honest with you, I've never actually drawn a landscape, seascape or anything like that before with Copics. Animals, yep, no problem. Scenery, never done it. So hopefully this is going to work. I've got quite a little bit of lininess, so I've got to bring that down to here apparently. And the white areas I'm not so worried about, because I'm going to be using a Posco marker to put in the masts and the riggings. Now this is where I'm going to slightly change the movement of the pen, and the reason for this is that the sky doesn't go 100% in straight line, and when I soften that out I just want that to be a certain softness. And I'm just going to bring a little bit of that texture all across. I have no idea what I'm doing, by the way, so sorry if there's a rattling sound. This is where the chisel nib would have come in very handy. Right, so that was B32. Now to start blending that down, I'm going to come in with a B12. I think I've got fluff on my nibs. Yeah, B12. We're going to go over all those bits. I can feel the paper slightly bobbling now. I'm pretty much sure this paper is a Bristol board, so it should be able to take quite a lot of this. Right, then from the B12, I'm just going to put these ones back. Next, going to come in with a, let's see, I think I'll try B000. This is a very, very light blue, but straight away you can see a lot of the lininess is starting to go. And this one I'm going to bring down a little bit further to soften off that edge. And I can come down quite a bit with this one. So the sun was actually coming up over that way. And this photo was taken last November, I think. Okay. Just get a little bit more bleed going. So it's really nice and saturated. Now I'm actually going to go back to the, let's see, I'm going to bring in some B23, and this is for the darkest area, and then I'm going to bleed this out. So this time, instead of just random marks, I'm doing small circles, apart from this little edge, because I've got my undercoat down, so I can start to just add in the next line of colours. So B12. Get feeling all my pens are probably going to run out on me on this. Yep, you can probably see the the nib's gone quite white. So I am running out of ink very fast. Looks like I'm going to need a lot of refills. So I'm going to try a different pen here. I'm going to bring in a B60. I just want to smooth and blend out a little bit of this area. That's then a B00. Hopefully I've got enough. So you can see there's a little bit of texture, but you can probably see there's also a little bit of blend starting to go. Am I losing it? Yeah, I'm losing this one. Underneath this paper I do have another sheet of paper just to take up a lot of the bleed and also to cushion the paper against the wood that it's taped to. Sorry. Somebody wants my attention. They're gonna have to wait. This is B12 coming in. So still using small circular motions. And just starting to darken off certain areas. And then we'll blend that back again with the lighter pens. It's a bit too much of a straight line here, so I'm just gonna give that a wiggle. You can see in some places the actual interchanges are very much blurred and blended together now. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. It is not straight lines anymore. I'm now looking for those colours to have merged together. I think BO2 is going to be too... a little bit of BO2. Sounds wrong, doesn't it? This is quite a nice juicy pen as well. You'll see I'm having to work quite fast. Now Copics dry quite quickly to say the least, so it's nice if you can get all your blending done quite quickly. Depending on the paper you work on can depend on how fast it dries as well, so you just need to be aware of that. Like I say, I'm doing this by eye, so the colours that go down will probably be different colours to what somebody else might have chosen. Nice thing about Copics is also when they dry, you can go over with the same colour, and you can get, as you can hopefully see there, a slightly darker tone. So you can really create some nice mood effects, especially with greys and skies. There's she who's never really done a landscape drawing. If I've done landscape, I've done it in teeny weeny scale. Right, so now I'm going to bring in the B000 as a wash, and to blend again. And the thing is, I can come back to this, I can let it now dry and come back to this image. I'm just looking to soften it. So instead of using the 0 to soften and blend, I'm using the lightest colours that I've got. And it, because of the amount of alcohol in the pens, it has roughly the same effect, but it just doesn't bleach it out as much. I'm just going to bring a tiny bit of B00. You can hear the squeaking, that's my marker. I have a squeaky marker. Yeah, I definitely need to go out and get some refills. So for now, sorry about the light changes, for now that's going to be pretty much the sky, and then I can come back once that's dried and start adding on some more layers. So that was quite a mixture of blues, but that's how quickly I can get sky down. Now those blues I need to bring into this water scene, but also I've got them in the rail that's here, and some of them are going to need to go onto all of the white bits. So for now I'm going to fill in a couple of the buildings, and I'm going to start by using a E02. Now earth tones you would normally think of kind of skins and things like that, but they work well with buildings as well. And that house is white. And then I'm going to, for the water part, I'm going to use the E00. So I'm just going to tidy up a couple of areas there. I've got a cat washing about 4 foot from me. Bilbo, enough. You wash yourself bald if you're not careful. Which is a long-haired cat with a lot of catitude. While I've got a couple of hours off at work, she's determined to stay in the room with me. And if I leave and she gets kicked out of the room by my parents, she will have a strop. And a proper, it's like a kind of 2-year-old tantrum thing. She'll sit outside my door and meow for hours. I mean, it's lovely to know that somebody in the world cares for me. So I just need to bring in a dark brown, so I'm going to try an E35. And this is going to be for the roofs. Right. E35 needs to go there. So next I think I'm going to try... Have I got a refill for that one? Yeah. Right, it's C31 and I've recently refilled it, so I'm hoping it should work okay. It's quite an old pen. Right, I think that side needs a new nib. The chisel side will work? Yeah, better. So I just need some new nibs for that one. So it's finding parts in the photo and making sure that I'm representing them right. Right, so next I'm going to use a kind of clay colour, which is E71. So there's a couple of little bits that I can see which would match this colour. So this is basically just laying down blocks of colour for now. Actually, that bit is green. So I need kind of moss green. That will do. Right, so I'm going to try and use a G99 for the bridge. This bridge in particular is a lifting bridge. Absolutely amazing piece of engineering. So it goes up every day at certain times unless there's no call for it. But in the summer when there's events going on, say the Red Arrows or someone like that is doing a flyover, then quite often you'll see the whole harbour empty. Look at every single boat, just everyone piles onto the boats and they go out and they sit just outside the harbour. And because of modern safety rules, for the town the Red Arrows go out over sea. So if you're on land, you don't get the best view, but if you hop onto one of those boats, you can get a stunning view from what I understand. Now, the funny thing is that, of course, the boats have to come back into harbour, and the only way at that end of the town to get across is via the bridge, unless you take the little guy who'll row you across the harbour for a couple of pounds. So you either walk the whole length of the town all the way across and come up a very, very long route, or you have to wait. It took over half an hour last year to get all the boats back through. But it's a stunning spectacle, just seeing boat after boat after boat coming through. I'm just going to quickly add a little bit of blender to that, and I've realised I've got a slightly blue tip to my blender, which is really handy actually. Just want to change the colour slightly there. Right, so I've mapped in a couple of little bits. I know it's not looking woohoo right now, but I'm just going to start mapping in this blue part here, and it'll make sense very shortly, hopefully. Now this is a very dark blue to start with, and in this case, instead of starting from light to dark, because I know there's a huge dark area down here, I'm going to go straight in with the dark colour. So I need to go, what is that? Right, reflection is there and it doesn't touch, it's about there. This piece comes all the way along to the railing. And yes, I'm rubbish at drawing straight lines. Right. And this actually curves. Because the tidal movement. I just want that, instead of being just random, I need a little weeny bit of curvature there. I can actually use the feathering technique just to pull a little bit of shape into there. This bit's a bit awkward. Because this area was super dark. Right. So next, I'm going to bring in a B99, another dark colour. Just using the chisel, I'm just going to put a bit more in there, leaving little gaps so that I can get a nice blend in there. And then using the sharper end of the chisel to mark out a couple of ripples. And these will should show through slightly. That's all about the textured mark making. Right, B37, slightly lighter colour. Coming over, and that's going to blend through. Then I'm going to bring in a little bit B06, but only a little bit. Then into the B23. So the colour that I've got in the sky, I'm now bringing into the main part. I'm just putting in a tiny bit of textural detail there. Then I'm going to go for the B12 and start to blend that through. But I'm going to take the B12 quite a long way, along this way. It's about up to here. I'm then going to come through with the B00 just to soften that out. Then the B000. my B00 is starting to give in on me. I'm now going to bring in the B32 to also start blending that in. Now back to the B39 on the bottom to just start darkening up certain areas. And then I'm going to go B99 again. So really darkening up the darkest darks. And you note that I am going off the page so that I don't get too many kind of stop-start movements. Then back into the B37 and go for chisel tip again. And then I'm going to bring in a B66 to add a little bit of violet into it. Now into the, let's see, I need something a little bit more pumpy. Gonna add a little bit of B24. It's quite a strong colour, but it's just getting a nice gentle transition, which is blending. Fix that in a bit. go for the B32 to smooth that out again. And to also blend in a little bit of the what's pretty much cast shadow around the silhouettes. Right. So that is kind of like the underbase for the sea now. So we've got our underbase for the sky, underbase for the sea, and then a couple of the buildings have got a little bit of colour to them now. So next I'm going to just pick out the railing and do a little bit of colour onto that. This is a green railing, but this was quite a lot in shadow, so I'm thinking of using colours like BG78 and I think I might go for G17. Now the top of this railing is actually white, in disrepair, a lot of rust and stuff, but 99% white. So we'll just use the greens on the parts of the posts that aren't white. So I'm going to start with my lightest first. And sadly, because when I took the photo this was almost black on this side, through the shadows of the buildings behind, I don't think I got a perfect image, so there's going to be a little bit of guesswork on this bit. Okay, so I'm just going to put in one of the boats. So to do this, I'm going to use a T1, and I'm literally just going to map in the shadows. The good thing about the T's are, because they're tonal greys, they work really well for organic and non-organic material. In fact, at that point, just below there, there is a concrete block. Now, at any one time, there can be an unbelievable amount of boats in this harbour, so many that you could quite happily go across the whole harbour just by jumping from boat to boat. But part of the area is actually quite famous for, during the Second World War, when they were planning D-Day, one of the ports nearby, Port of Portland, they filled it with boats, and the whole of the Chesil Causeway apparently was covered with land vehicles. And people were told roughly when to expect things to move out and all of that. And then everyone had got used to it. And the joke was that you could get from one side of the harbour to the other by walking on the boats. And then people woke up one day and the whole lot are gone. And what they'd done was that they'd given false dates and such to anyone who'd kind of been snooping around, and that way when it was time to go, nobody knew, and the boats were able to move out safely, and well, the rest is history. But a lot of the people who still live in Weymouth, Portland, Dorchester, all those areas, their grandparents and such, as younger people, would have actually seen that, and you sometimes hear them saying about how one minute there was a sea of boats and then there were none. So I've just added in the windows on that boat, and I'm just going to add in a little bit of detail on the smaller craft down here. I'm just going to see, it's about there. Just put the windows on a reflection. So I can put in a little bit of the shadows. And as each bit goes into this image, hopefully it's making a little bit more sense. Probably isn't, but I'm trying. In fact, what I'm going to do is the path, I'm going to use the T1 to just block in the path. That gets that bit out of the way. And this bit over here, which is in it was a massive morning mist, really pretty. I can put that into the grey. I'm just going to zoom in on my computer and try and work out, yeah, because the harbour wall actually comes out slightly. So from the angle that I was walking, you kind of had quite a lot of grey on the other side. Let's see. It's nice when working with a photo because sometimes there's detail that you don't get when you're working if you do a print off. So in this case I've just realised there's a little kind of electrics box just in front of this boat, so I'm just gonna block that in. And that's actually got a nasty bit coming up. Probably it's got a notice on it in my photo. See, zoomy. No, I can't quite read it. So what I'm looking at on the photo is this piece here. It's actually a little, almost like a substation. So it's little details like that that if I can get them in, I will certainly try, because when people look at a scene, they want familiarity. And if you can give them that, it's really handy. So just using the N3 this time, because I just want quite a neutral colour, just to fill in a bit of the gangway. And add a little bit of shadow to the underside there. And you see, because the depth of the darkness here, that when I put the white Posco marker over that, I can then put a cream over that, and that will really stand out against the navies, which is what I'm kind of after. Now under here, I'm going to use the B39 because there's some shadow under here. So I just need to work out where that is. And then I can just put a little bit of B00 around that just to give a softer transition. So I think that's pretty much going to be it for now. Now I'm going to hopefully pop down, get dinner, come back, and then I can start doing a bit more work to this image. I've just seen another bit that I really want to edit. What colour? Let's go T3. I'm just going to quickly stick something in with T3 that I actually didn't realise was there before. Let me go up. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm hoping to get this moderately finished by tonight, but I can't make any guarantees. My only problem right now is that this morning I actually had one of my teeth shatter on me. I have an appointment tomorrow, and of course I'm at work tomorrow, as you do, and so I've got to probably either go and get an extraction, just have the whole tooth taken out, which would actually probably be a lot easier, or they'll refill pretty much the whole tooth. But it's going to be down to the dentist what they want to do, apart from torture me, because I swear my dentist is a torturer. Oh my giddy aunt, have I never been in so much pain? Tell you a horror story that I've had to go through from personal experience. Had a dentist, and I went there because I got a problem with a tooth. And I paid quite a bit of money to go for this emergency appointment. And they didn't take x-rays, they just got the drill and went straight in. And she hit the nerve. And boy, did I jump. So she said, "Oh, what was that?" And I said, "You've just hit my nerve." And her response was, "No, I haven't. I know what I'm doing." And she stuck the drill back in, hit the nerve again. And by this time, I was a wreck. And lo and behold, I said, "You have hit the nerve again." And in the end, they took x-rays. And as she was drilling, during that stage, whole tooth shattered. So then they took an x-ray and, "Oh yeah, got a problem there. Can you come in tomorrow for an extraction?" And I lost the whole tooth. But if she'd taken the x-ray first, then I probably wouldn't have lost the tooth, because she probably wouldn't have actually gone like a maniac with the drill. So yeah, and that's the tooth, the whole tooth and nothing but the tooth, due to the fact that I do not have that tooth anymore. Well, I have it, it's in my room on one of my stands as a memento. But yeah, I don't trust dentists. It's not the first time that I've had trouble with them. One dentist turned around to me and said, "Oh, we won't use that one, we want to clean one of those on a bit of the equipment." And I'm thinking, "You've been using a filthy piece of equipment in my mouth, thank you very much." So I kind of get extremely nervous around dentists. So I've just added a little bit of detail onto that boat, because basically it's a white boat and then they actually have a little covery thing over the top. There we go. So when I come back in a couple of hours, hopefully I can start to actually pull out a lot of this detail and get the drawing to make a lot more sense. So thank you very much for popping by and watching, and hopefully I'll be back very shortly with part 2 to this drawing, and fingers crossed can get it looking more like a drawing and less like just some random colours. So till next time, thank you for watching, all the best and happy drawing.